Social anxiety can be excruciating, and it can hold us back from moving forward in almost all areas of our life. By the end of this video, you'll understand the keys that I teach people as a psychologist to help them overcome their social anxiety. My name is Dr. Park. I'm a psychologist for youth, and here at Through the Waters, we nurture your mental health. There are different approaches to treating social anxiety, but one of the best evidence-based approaches is called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. As a psychologist, I'm often trying to teach people tools, skills, and strategies from CBT that will help them overcome their social anxiety. The first key is called psychoeducation. That's the fancy therapist word for accurate information. I haven't figured out a way to get people excited about this, but I can tell you that when I share psychoeducation in therapy, it's like people are like, oh, my mind is so blown. I just realized all these epiphanies that there are these things I experience that are part of my social anxiety and I never realized, right? So when we learn accurate information about the roots of social anxiety across the biological, psychological, social, cultural, and spiritual dimensions of our lives, we feel less alone, less confused, and less ashamed. Psychoeducation helps us understand our experience so that it makes valid sense to us. We have these aha light bulb moments of insight. Psychoeducation helps us see how social anxiety is bearing fruit in our bodily sensations, our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. The second key is to find coping strategies that work for you. These may be different than what works for other people, and that's totally okay. In fact, we should celebrate you finding coping tools that work uniquely for you. Some examples of coping tools are relaxation, grounding, physical activity, and deep breathing, but there's a million that you could try. We basically need to find coping tools that help us relax our body before, during, and after facing social situations that make us feel anxious. You can download a free list of 76 different coping tools for free at the link in the description below, so check that out. What I want you to understand though about coping is that most people think that coping tools are the end of the story when it comes to overcoming social anxiety. They think, oh, once I find good coping tools, I'm gonna feel better and I won't have this anxiety anymore. What I want you to understand is that coping tools are the beginning of the story when it comes to overcoming social anxiety. They are a starting point that can help you feel better in the moment. That's a short-term fix, but it's not the best long-term solution. The long-term strategies are coming up here in keys 3 and 4 of this video, so let's talk about those now. Key number 3 is cognitive restructuring. This is the fancy therapist term for developing an awareness of your thoughts and then being able to change your self-talk and your thinking patterns. For example, with social anxiety, a lot of people fall into a thinking trap known as spotlighting. They think that everyone is looking at them as though a spotlight is shining on them. For example, if they're about to walk into a classroom and they're running late, they might have the thought, if I walk in late, everyone will look at me. Cognitive restructuring is a skill that helps us put that thought under the microscope and ask, is that thought accurate? Is that thought helpful? And to either of those questions, you can say yes, no, maybe. But in this particular example, I'd say that thought is neither accurate nor helpful. So it's a no for both questions. A more helpful and accurate thought might be, if I walk into the room late, realistically, a few people might notice for a moment, but most people in the room are probably thinking about themselves and their own lives. What we just did there, becoming aware of the thought, catching a thinking trap, evaluating whether the thought is helpful, whether the thought is accurate, and coming up with a new thought, that's cognitive restructuring. You basically need to learn how to look at your thought life as a battleground. Not to sound too dramatic about it, but this battle with social anxiety can be won or lost on that territory of your thinking. And so cognitive restructuring is basically restructuring your thinking. It's architecting new thoughts. Now, the battle is also lost and won on this level of action. So key number 4 is related to action, and it's a skill called gradual exposure. This involves getting yourself to take new actions in your life. If you're struggling with social anxiety, my number 1 biggest wish for you is that you would learn how to practice gradual exposure. If someone were to ask me, what is the most powerful key to overcoming social anxiety, I would say gradual exposure. If someone were to ask me, what key do most people not access or even know about, I would say gradual exposure. Here's what that means. When we are anxious about something like a social situation, we have a natural tendency to avoid whatever we fear. This creates an anxiety avoidance cycle where the more we're anxious about something, the more we avoid it, and the more we avoid it, the more the anxiety grows. So the avoidance feeds the anxiety. And this is a vicious cycle that can spin way out of control. Gradual exposure breaks this anxiety avoidance cycle. It involves gradually, slowly over time, facing the situations we're anxious about. As we practice getting outside our comfort zone, we develop skills and how to handle these situations, and we gain confidence. Our anxiety decreases over time. The ideal is that the situations that make you nervous would actually become boring to us, if you can imagine that. The main idea is that as we expose ourselves to the situations we fear, our body and our brain learn that we don't need to fear them as much. We adapt, so anxiety decreases to a manageable level. If you're interested in learning how to practice gradual exposure and the other keys I've been talking about so far in this video, check out our signature anxiety program called Peace to the People. There's a link in the description below for you to learn more about the program. All right, let's continue with 2 more keys. Key number 5 is called social skills training. Now, this is one where you really do need a person or a group to practice with. That would be the ideal. You can act out the social situations that you're anxious about, kind of like actors who are like role playing before they actually turn on the camera. So if you're anxious about making a phone call or asking a teacher a certain question, find someone to practice that conversation with ahead of time. In the teacher example, you could be the teacher and the other person could be the you, and you have the conversation, you practice it, then switch roles and do it again. So now this time you're going to be the you and the other person will be the teacher, and do that a couple of times, switching back and forth, and watch your confidence grow. And one encouragement that I would give you is do not plan out ahead of time what you're going to say, and do not memorize it. Approach it like you're going to spontaneously improvise on the spot. That feels more challenging, absolutely, but it will help you more than planning or memorizing will. Life is unscripted. When you have this conversation in the real world, you're going to need to respond on your feet. So the more practice you get with unscripted conversations, the more confidence you'll gain in your ability to think on your feet and respond in the moment. You have to practice what we call improv brain, just improvising in the moment, and you're going to discover that you can do that. You might even find yourself pleasantly surprised by yourself. A lot of social anxiety is our brain overthinking and over-anticipating and over-planning and over-analyzing. We can quiet that overthinking by gaining more and more practice with unscripted conversation in situations that make us anxious. Why? Because we develop skills to fill in the gap, but also because through practice, our nervous system learns that the situations we're practicing aren't really a threat. And therefore, it doesn't need to go into overdrive to protect us from something that seemed dangerous before. Our body and brain learn to chill out regarding the situations we practice, then that quiets the overthinking. Okay, let's talk about the final key. Key number 6 is behavioral experiments. This is similar to gradual exposure, but it's a bit more targeted. Whatever negative expectations or beliefs you have about social situations, you're going to test them out in the real world. Let's say, for example, you have a belief that if you walk into a coffee shop and try to order a drink, you'll fail so miserably that the person taking your order is gonna laugh at you. The behavioral experiment is for you to, you guessed it, walk into a coffee shop and try to order a drink. Afterward, reflect on what happened. Were you able to place an order, even if you felt super embarrassed or even humiliated or you stuttered while you were doing it? I would celebrate that. Success is not all or nothing, so give yourself credit for what you tried. Give yourself credit for the effort that you put in. Give yourself credit for what you might even consider a partial success. Give yourself credit for what you were able to do, even if it just means that you walked up to the coffee shop, you touched the door, and you walked away. Next time, you're gonna do a behavioral experiment where you touch the door, you open it, you walk into the coffee shop, and you stand there for a moment. And if you walk away, the next experiment is you're gonna walk in there, stand there for longer, and so on. You're just gonna approximate the success that you want until you can order your drink. So let's say you do a behavioral experiment where you do walk up to the counter, you do order a drink, and again, you need to reflect on afterwards what happened. Did the person taking your order actually laugh at you? If not, that's a really important experience to challenge your belief, and your belief might need to change. Even more challenging, what if they did laugh at you? I would hate for that to happen to anyone, but how could cognitive restructuring, which we talked about earlier, how could that skill help you reframe how you interpret their laughter? For example, I might look at that and think, that wasn't very nice of them actually. That doesn't seem like what kindness would do. Doesn't seem like kindness would be to laugh at someone who's nervous about ordering their drink. Really challenge yourself to interpret the situation in a way that is life-giving for you rather than shaming you or condemning you. So there you have it. There's 6 keys for overcoming social anxiety from the perspective of a psychologist.